Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Series A, Dhamma Talk number 29. We were discussing under the topic of Bojjhanga Dhamma, okay? 7 Factors of Enlightenment. And in there, the second one. Today we are going to deal with the second one, which is called Dhamma Vicaya, V-I-C-A-Y-A, Dhamma Vicaya. It translated into Investigation of Dhamma. So today we'll be talking about this topic. Under this topic, quite a number of Buddhists understood differently, not in a correct way. So one need to be quite careful about what the Buddhists meant by Dhamma Vicaya or investigation of Dhamma. As soon as we hear the word investigation, we have to use the English word because that's what translated. We automatically come to understanding there must be facts and figures and understanding reason and logic and all sort of things that we use on an intellectual level, reflecting. With all these tools, we look into Dhamma. In other words, we have reference book, definition, and so on and so forth. That is how we understood the word investigation. But in here, when Buddha said investigation of Dhamma, means totally different from what we usually understand from the meaning of investigation. So instead of keep on talking about investigation, we will use the word vicaya or vicaya. So keep that in mind. We'll use the word vicaya. Investigation. So, investigation into Dhamma. What are we investigating into the Dhamma? So, if you look at from the Buddhist point of view, all human beings are influenced or even under the control. We are the puppets of the mental defilements, which we call kilesa, lobha, dosa, and moha. Lobha translated as greed, anything that you want to be close to, own to, possessed. Dosa, anything that you want to push it away. Aversion, anger, ill will, hatred, so on. And the third one is called moha. Moha is, we translate it as delusion or illusion. Okay, the first two concepts, greed and anger, is quite easy to understand on a superficial level, The third one, even on a superficial level, it is a little bit difficult to understand. Moha. Moha means, English translation is delusion, illusion. And also translated as ignorance. Ignorance. What are you ignorant about? You are ignorant about the true nature of mind and matter. So, we are always under the cover of this moha, delusion or illusion. That means whatever we see, whatever we think, whatever we believe, most of the people, 99.9999% of the people, okay, we always look through a veil. We always look through a cover of fog. When we look through the fog, we cannot really see the object exactly as it is clearly. We sort of see, we sort of know, but we don't really see. And we are always in that state. That veil, that fog is always enveloping and covering us. That's why we could never see the true nature of mind and matter, of this body and consciousness. And whatever we believe, whatever we think we see, is always distorted from the actual reality. That is moha or avijja. Two words they use, delusion, illusion, or ignorant. So we are always in that mist, in the midst of the fog. So what is it covering? It is covering, shielding the true nature of mind and matter, body and this consciousness. And this vichaya, investigation, means we investigate into the true nature of mind and matter. We investigate into the true nature of mind and matter. But at the same time, right at the beginning onset, I mentioned that there is no thought process, thinking, reflecting, logic, analysis, the tools that we always use. Nothing is involved. Nothing is involved as such. In this investigation, we use a totally different tool. Okay? No thoughts, no reflection, no language, no concept, no sentence, no word involved. If you are applying any one of those things, you are not doing vichaya. So what is this? This is direct, okay? Direct investigation, direct perception. Okay? You interface or you go face to face with the object directly, just looking at it and experience the object without any preconceived ideas, without any conceptual form or word. That is how you do. Whatever object that you are investigating, of course in here, it is a mind or a matter. Mind is your consciousness. Matter, we look into this body, because we don't have to look at the whole universe. We just look within this framework of this body that you have. So you look directly, you come in contact with that object, whatever it's arising at the present moment, must be the real time. Real time. Real time means right now, right here, present. Not a little before, not a little after. At that moment, you interface or you got in contact or confront the object and experienced it. Experience it. Through that direct contact, which converted into experience. And if you are doing that, you are doing this vijaya. Must be at the present moment, must be any direct contact without any concept, and you look into it. That is the meaning of this vijaya, which we call investigation. And if you are doing that, you are doing this, you are carrying out this Dhamma vijaya, or the investigation of Dhamma. So you are investigating the Dhamma. So in here, we know what vijaya, investigation, means now, how to execute it or apply it. What is Dhamma? We need to understand the Dhamma. Dhamma is nama and rupa. Okay? This mind and this matter. Mind and matter is Dhamma. Okay? Or you can say mind is a mental phenomenon or mentality. Matter or this body is the physical phenomenon or physical body. So, phenomenons, physical or mental phenomenons, or this mind and body is Dhamma. And also, this communication or relationship between this mind and body, okay, their interaction, their relationship, how they work between this mind and this body, is also Dhamma. How do they interrelate? How do they communicate? How do they connect? Through cause and effect, causal relationship. That is also called Dhamma. So it's very important to know what Dhamma means, and based on the context that you are reading, you understand what this Dhamma is referring to, whether it is referring to phenomenon, or whether it is referring to mind, or whether it is referring to matter, or whether it is referring to the conditional relationship between the mind and matter. That's Dhamma. And also, all the teachings of Buddha's teachings that we can read in a book, on CD, in the scriptures, that is Dhamma. And whenever we refer to the Buddha's teaching, okay, totality in a book form, in a scriptural form, whenever we refer to that Dhamma is spelled with capital D, Dhamma. If you see capital D, Dhamma, it means it is referring to the scripture, the Buddha's teachings. And the other ones are with the small d, okay, small d, mind and matter, phenomenon, conditional relationship. These are called Dhamma. And also, Dhamma can be understood in a different way, another way, depending on what it is. These matter and mind, or this body and this consciousness, this body, okay, this body has the specific characteristics. Matter has specific characteristics. Okay? And also, this mind has specific characteristic. What does it mean by specific characteristic is through this character, which are unique and only belong to this object that you are observing, you can identify that object with that characteristic. If you see that characteristic, that is what it is. Okay. Today we are putting a large volume of information into a very condensed topic. So, specific characteristics of mind and specific characteristics of matter, that is also Dhamma. And also, in here, as they have, each one has a specific, unique characteristic to identify with, and at the same time, everything in this universe that falls under the category of mind and matter also have common characteristic. Those characteristics belongs to everything. Everything in this universe, whether it's a mental world or physical world, you will find this characteristic with no exception, no if or but. And they are called common characteristics or general characteristics of mind and matter, which is anicca, dukkha, and anatta, translated as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. And that is Dhamma. So now we know what Dhamma means. One, physical and mental phenomenon, or mind and matter, Dhamma. Secondly, the conditional relationship between mind and matter, Dhamma. Buddha's teaching, collections of Buddha's teaching with a capital D, Dhamma. And also specific characteristics and general characteristics of mind and matter is Dhamma. Now we know what Dhamma is. And Vicaya, we are investigating. Okay, Vicaya, investigating. We are investigating to understand the true nature of mind and matter. That is what Dhamma Vicaya means. We understand the meaning of Dhamma, we understand the meaning of Vicaya. And when we investigate it, we don't investigate it with a reference book. We don't investigate with definition. No words, no concept. Direct experience. Directly confronting or observing the object which is arising at the present moment. That's how one has to accurately apply to get Vicaya. That application is not Vicaya. Okay? Present object, of course you use mindfulness, you observe correctly and precisely. Okay? And then at a certain point, when you do everything correctly, suddenly, Dhamma or Vicaya, so to speak, investigation, Vicaya arise. Vicaya arise. So, this is not mindfulness, this is not precision, that is not thing. These are all the applications, okay? Applications that you apply. And when you have everything in perfect condition, a mental state called Vicaya arises. It doesn't arise by itself. It doesn't arise with mindfulness. It doesn't arise with effort. When everything is in perfectly composed state, this mental state of vijaya arises. Okay? So vijaya is a quality of its own. A quality of its own. It arises. And when it arises, what happens? What happens is you know whether that arises or doesn't arise. You know. How? Let's use an example. You are sitting on this bank of the river or this bank of the strait or inlet. You're looking at the other side. There's a whole big rolls of fog covering. Okay? Suddenly, the sun shines brightly and burns everything out. The fog's gone. That fog is that delusion, illusion, moha. Okay? And then suddenly, because of the sunlight just burned up everything. That presence of sunlight burns up the fog, and you can see the other side clearly and beautifully. That sunlight that burns up the fog, or something that burns up that the veil of fog or moha or delusion, is vijaya. So as soon as vijaya exists, the delusion or illusion or misunderstanding or ignorance about the object, and object is only two in general form, mind or matter. The understanding of this mind and matter suddenly pops right in front of you. You simply just see it in its true nature, in its reality. Okay. In its own true nature, in its true reality, you see it. When you see it, this vijaya is present. When vijaya is present, you can see that way. And if there is no vijaya, you're still looking through the fog. So that is vijaya. Slowly and slowly, you will have a better sense of understanding of what this vijaya is. Okay, this vijaya is in the scriptures. Sometimes you can see it is used interchangeably depending on the situation. Okay, these are the words you understand. Pinya, wisdom. Jnana, insight, wisdom or insight, and also vijaya. These three are, depending on the context, interchangeably is used. So you can say vijaya is insight, vijaya is wisdom. They are not exactly identical, but they have a huge overlapping. When you have vijaya, you have insight into mind or into the matter. You have insight, okay, in the object that you are observing, or you have insight or wisdom about the general characteristics of mind and matter. So they can be used interchangeably, but exactly it is not exactly the same. Vijaya is the sunlight. Okay? Insight is seeing clearly the other side of the bank without any fog. But they are the same. As an example, let's say this is a room in midnight, nothing else, totally dark. Okay? And then you switch on the light, boom, electric light come on, the whole room is bright. And when the whole room is bright, what? You can see the whole room. They are almost spontaneously happening at the same time. In that way, one should clearly understand Vijaya. So it can be also understood as insight or wisdom. That is Dhamma Vijaya. So when Vijaya is present, you see things, you see the objects under your observation, under your attention, as it really is, in its true nature. That's all about this English word investigation, Pali word Vijaya is. So when you are observing it, okay, you see things as they really are, in its true form. In Pali word, it is called Paramatta, Paramatta Dhamma, as it really is. Apparent reality and ultimate reality. We see things in the ultimate reality. So there are only 4 ultimate reality in this universe according to the Buddha. First of all, matter. Matter is true and it really exists. And number 2, the mind. The mind is true and it really exists. And also mental factors or cetasika. Mind is ceta, mental factor is cetasika. Cetasika, for lack of a better word, all those emotions, negative and positive, they truly exist. They are real. They are not illusion. And also the 4th one, Nibbana. Okay, Nibbana. In other words, that is the final goal or objective of the Buddhist, Nibbana. That is also true and real. So there are only 4 realities: mind, matter, mental factors, and Nibbana. And these ultimate realities, okay, these ultimate realities, what is common in all those things? Okay. The common in all those ultimate reality is you can perceive these ultimate reality without concept, with direct experience. Okay? You can experience the ultimate realities. Okay? Without concept, without words, without language. Ultimate reality is something yet that you can directly experience. That is ultimate reality. So let's use example based on what we are practicing. Let's use the rupa, okay, form or matter. Rupa, form or matter, or physicality. So rupa is, you can call it a form, or let's call it for communication purpose, a substance. Let's call it a substance. A matter is a substance. Okay? Substance is something, it is there. Okay? On an obvious level, a grain of sand. A grain of sand is a substance. You can touch it, you can feel it. Okay, that nature. So there are these matter in the universe. If you want a scientific word, it is easy. We can call it a cell in your body. Very small cell. You want to be smaller? Yes, atom. Atom is a substance. Cell is a substance. Or smaller, you can have a subatomic particle, proton, neutron, electron. Those are subatoms. They really, truly exist. They are not illusion, they are not delusion, they truly exist. So, whenever you are talking about matter, okay, we are not talking in terms of concept, not the word atom, not with the subparticles and so on and so forth. What it is this substance can be directly identified through direct contact. Okay. What it is now let's go to our meditation. You are observing the body. This physical body is made up of composed of many subatomic particles. These are substance. Okay? You don't look at it as with the concept of a man or a woman, a head or a hand or a leg, or a stomach. That is conceptual. That is not the way to so-called vijaya, investigate. You contact directly. So how do we contact? Okay, in a meditation system, we just give a point to focus on. The abdominal movement, rising and falling, rising and falling. When you focused on it, okay, at the beginning, of course, you sense, you're aware it's me or I, and then, oh, it's my stomach, my tummy moving, and so on. So at the beginning, when your concentration is not too strong, when your mindfulness doesn't have a momentum, that's how you see. And slowly, you're still observing, and you are not aware of yourself. You are not aware of your body. You are not aware of your stomach. All that you are aware is simply movement. And movement is something that you can experience directly. Movement is something you can understand without words, without any language, without any concept. Simply a movement is a movement. You can directly experience through sensation. You can directly experience through sensation. That's what movement is. So I'm just giving you the one little example to understand. But if we go through, it'll take a long time. So, in short, this matter is composed of 4 great elements. It's called earth element, which means hardness. You can feel hardness and softness. Means wind elements. You can feel tension, tautness, stiffness, movement. That's a wind element. You can sense, you can detect through sensation. And fire element, hot and cold, temperature. Without words, without concept, you can experience directly fire element. And then water element. It is the dispersion and cohesion. And this one, in a meditation, we can see and sense of fluidity. Okay. Salivas in your mouth, building up, swallowing it. Sometimes tears come down, roll down. Sometimes sweats come down. In that fluid state, we can see. But water element in general is something that disperses into the gaseous states and then solidified into the solid state, the whole spectrum. The cohesion, the power of cohesion. Cohesion good becomes solid. Cohesion is not good, it becomes watery, finally into gas and escape. That is water element. Those things you can sense directly through sensation, through feeling, physical feeling. And that is paramatta. ultimate reality. So when you are investigating your body, when you're investigating a rising movement and falling movement, stiffness, and so on, eventually you come to understand this so-called my body is nothing but is the collection or accumulation or the play of these four great elements. That's all. But instead of understanding that way, we began to look at myself, yourself, he, she, a man, a woman, animal, human, birds, and so on. But regardless, you take anything, it could change and change and change in some form and shape and concept and words. But the ultimate characteristic, earth, wind, fire, and water, never change. And when you are meditating and observing your body, you are observing to experience those qualities directly. And these are called specific characteristics of matter. Okay? Earth, wind, fire, and water. The mind has also its own characteristic. The mind has the ability to know. That's all. The mind is not something special, a soul or a spirit or created. It is just a phenomenon. A phenomenon. I use a very crude example quite often. There's a motion detector. Motion detector, install electricity, plug in, the chips are in. When there is no movement in front, nothing happens. As soon as there's a movement in the front of that field of the scope of that detector, there's a noise come out. It detects, it knows the movement, but it doesn't have, it doesn't have a consciousness to know. It has to have a whole series of material construction. Just like that, we have a phenomenon. It's a mental phenomenon, not physical, not constructed with any materiality, but a mental phenomenon in there. That phenomenon has the ability to know. Ability to know what? Ability to know object. Whatever physical objects that it comes in contact with, it knows. Whatever mental objects that comes in contact with, it knows. If they are not in contact, they don't know. Ability to know. That is the characteristics of mind or consciousness. The word that they precisely is used is called vijnana. Vijnana. English is simply consciousness. Ability to know. And that is real. That is not an illusion, that is not a delusion, that is not a magician making it up. It exists in this universe. A phenomenon, a mental phenomenon that has the ability to detect object or to know object. That is the mind. And when you are meditating and meditating and meditating, when your mindfulness momentum's built up very strongly, and then concentration develop, you can experience yourself. There's that movement, rising movement, falling movement, that movement going on. And also, there is something that knows the movement. Two different things. They are not intertwined, they are not together. They are not overlapping. Okay, as soon as we say, oh yeah, I know, I see this person, I see that person, I talk to that person, I. Everything is this body and mind is just me together. But in here, when you meditate, this movement is simply a movement by itself, happening on its own, in its true nature. For a certain set of conditions, that movement arises and pass away, arises and pass away. And when you have a very good concentration, there's a knowing of it. Okay? There's a knowing of that movement. Two separate things. That movement is matter. That knowing is mind. Mind and matter. You begin to see that. And when you see that way, at that moment, vicaya is present. Without that vicaya, you do not know that way. And then you simply meditate without thinking anything, without preconceived ideas. And suddenly, there's a movement. Because of the movement, knowing arises. Movement is the cause, knowing is the effect. Without thinking, without reflecting, you simply, intuitively know. You know that way because there is vicaya, investigation. Without that vicaya, you cannot know, you do not know. You will vaguely or sort of knows, not exactly. But in here is clarity, as clear as the night and day. You know that way. That is vicaya. And also when there is a mental factors. Okay? When there's anger, one knows there's an anger. When there's a joy, one knows there's a joy. When you don't know what happened, I am angry, I am happy. That is, you are looking under the veil of illusion in the midst of the fog. When have Dhamma vicaya, not that. There's a movement and there's a knowing. Two phenomena in operation which has nothing to do with each other. But because of this movement, knowing arises. That kind of understanding intuitively arises. The word is intuitively arises, not through thinking or putting pieces together or figuring out. You can figure out 1,000,000 times, you would not know. You know through, in the midst of fog or through the veil. Sort of know, but you do not know. And that kind of knowing is not called insight. That kind of knowing is not called wisdom. That kind of knowing does not have vicaya, investigation. So now you can have an understanding now. You begin to see the mind as a mind, the matter as a matter, with their own specific characteristic, hot, cold, light, heavy, taut, support. All these things are individual characteristics. And then the mind's knowing, and we call it mental factors. Okay? I just explained joy and happiness. But let's use something that is quite significant. Okay? Mental factors, cetasika. In the mental factors, most of you understood, some of you might not, but if you don't, just ride along with it. Slowly and slowly you will understand with time. Phassa, mental contact. That phassa, mental contact, is cetasika, mental factors. Okay? Mental factors, cetasika. That phassa is real. Mental factor is real. What does it do is, there's an object. Okay? There's the object and there's the mind. When the mind and the object comes in contact, whether it's not your hand putting on the a bowl or a cup. It's a mental contact. The mind goes directly to that object and they are confronting face to face. That is called mental contact, phassa. And whenever that contact happens, what happens is an impression is made on the mind. An impression is made on the mind. Or that matter, whatever that quality of matter, infringe upon the mind. Okay, that is the beginning of the memories. Infringe on the mind. It make an impression on the mind. It infringe on the mind. It impeach on the mind, the object. Let's say you eat ice cream or you see ice cream commercial. Once fine, twice fine. You see about 100 times, it become a part of you. And when you see it later, even more than that, when you are not mindful, you have a craving to eat, you go to the fridge and get a scoop of ice cream and you eat. That kind of thing. It makes impression on your mind. That is the contact, phassa, mental factors. That is real. And that's how things all start. Whenever the mind and the object come face to face, the object make an impression on the mind, and then it goes. Okay. That is the phassa is real. Contact, anger, joy, they are real. These emotional factors, sankhara, mental factors are real. And to be able to understand that, okay, you look at it and you understand it. To be able to understand that, of course, you have to have the mindfulness with observing with precision and accuracy and with a lot of force and power and effort and building up the momentum, and there's a concentration. And when there's a concentration, what happened was, at the moment of that contact of the object and the mind, concentration, which is also the mental factor, as an aid, poof, Dhamma, Vijaya arises. As soon as the Vijaya arises, the understanding of the whole situation, intuitive understanding of the whole situation arises. That is insight, that is wisdom. Of course, depending on what level you are, how long you have practiced, how much commitment you have. How much commitment you have. That varies. That varies. Because you might be at the level of just to know the movements and hot and cold and temperature as it is right. And you might come to know, no, this is mind, this is body. You might come to know, oh no, they are doing with cause and effect, and so on. And also, you might come to know this rising movement comes and disappears. Falling movements comes and disappear. Pain comes, disappear. Anger arises, disappear. Oh, everything is impermanent. Not by thinking, not by reflecting, intuitively. That is the key word. Intuitively you understand it. If you have to figure out, if you have to put the words into it, it is not the real quiet. Intuitively understand. And then when that matures, your practice matures, what happens is the quality of Dhamma Vijaya arises and arises and arises. The quality of Vijaya investigation is not constant. It is arising, it is increasing Or it can also even decrease once you have it, and the quality, the power of that vijaya increases and increases and increases. Eventually, that has the power to penetrate into the true nature of Nibbana. Okay, Nirvana. Sanskrit was Nirvana, Pali was Nibbana. You can penetrate into the nature of Nibbana. But you have to have a very powerful, superior vijaya. And Nibbana too, you simply intuitively understood, you experience. But one thing is, Nibbana is out of this world. Anything you see and you do, you understand the mind and the matter, this universe, physical phenomena and mental phenomena, does not exist in Nibbana. As it doesn't exist in Nibbana, our reference, our capacity, our comprehension, our ability of our intelligence is limited within this mind and matter. We can only refer and reference and explain in terms of that. But this Nibbana is beyond the mind, beyond the matter. So that's why conceptually we cannot describe or define Nibbana. So if you look at the scriptures, whenever Buddhists talk about Nibbana, he explains in a negative way. Negative way means in Nibbana there is no mind. In Nibbana there is no matter. In Nibbana there is no suffering. In Nibbana there is no joy, no excitement. Everything is with negation, as explained, because we do not have enough knowledge or vocabulary or concept to explain Nibbana, because it is beyond space and beyond time, beyond mind and beyond matter, beyond physical phenomena and beyond mental phenomena. That's Nibbana. So in here, Dhamma Vicaya, we are talking about this investigation. When that Dhamma Vicaya is present, you can even penetrate into the true nature of Nibbana. That Nibbana is also real. Okay? Nibbana is anything and everything is opposite to this world, our universe of mind and matter. Okay? There's no matter, there's no mind. And our world of mind and matter is, everything is always in a state of change, state of flux. Everything is arises and passes away, ceased and ceased and ceased and ceased, die and die and die. Everything is impermanence. So, in Nibbana, it is permanent. Permanence means eternity. Permanent eternity. And here, in this world of mind and matter, in our universe, it is always under the oppression of this arising and passing away. We are always under the oppression of suffering. In Nibbana, there is no suffering. There is no arising. There is no becoming. There is no passing away. There is no death. Don't think there is no death, you live forever. It simply do not even arise. Only when there is no arising, only when there is no becoming, there can be no death. As long as there is a becoming, there is a death. As long as there is a arising, there is death. So there is no suffering. Instead, okay, not the way we understand. It is a state of bliss, but do not think in terms of sensation. As soon as we say bliss and peaceful, it's a sensation we are experiencing. That sensation is the world of mind and matter. Over there is no sensation, but still there's a bliss. And the third one is, in here is the world of atta, self and soul. But through Buddhist, through investigation, you understand anatta, non-self, no soul. Non-self, no soul. Nibbana is also non-self. Oh, there's a commonality. We don't have a non-self, and Nibbana also have non-self. But it's a different kind of non-self. The non-self we have in our world, and the world of this mind and matter, it's dependent upon, it stands upon anicca, dukkha, and that anatta has impermanence, striking and bombarding all the time. This anatta has suffering all the time, anatta in our world. So it depends on, it stands on anicca and dukkha. Anatta stands and based on anicca and dukkha, impermanence and suffering. But anatta in the Nibbana does not stand upon impermanence, does not stand upon suffering. It stands upon permanent and it stands upon bliss. So anatta in Nibbana is totally different from the anatta we have here. That's a difference. That's anatta, Nibbana. So now we start with, first of all, matter, specific characteristic, general characteristic. We talk about mind, specific characteristic, general characteristic. We talk about mental factors, specific characteristic, mental characteristic. And we talk about Nibbana. Nibbana has no characteristic. Or if you want to define it, it is permanent, it is full of lack of suffering, and it is non-self, which does not depend on suffering and change. That's anatta. So these are vicaya, Dhamma vicaya, investigation of Dhamma. You investigate into these things, not with concept, not with words, not with any form of thinking or reflection, but direct contact, direct contact, direct contact. Phassa, phassa, phassa. Mental contact, mental contact, mental contact, without concept. Of course, always start with mindfulness. Without the mindfulness, you won't be able to. Mindfulness, and you have to do it precisely and exactly as being instructed. You know the whole system, how to do. And then when the concentration develops to a certain level, at that moment when you are in contact with that object, you see very clearly as it really is, because that vicaya, let's call it the light that burns the fog, is present. And that vicaya it's also have many qualities. The highest quality can even lit up the Nibbana, and you can experience it. Even though you experience it, as there is no reference point in our world, we cannot describe it. But one who experienced knows. That's it. That is Dhamma vicaya. In such a way, you investigate into the Dhamma. And that is the definition and explanation of the Buddha. But of course, after the Buddha passed away, the elders all collect all the Buddha's teaching, put that, and down the line it's put into a written, right on a palm leaves, right on the papers, and now those sculpted into the stones and now burned on CDs and stuff like that, everything. So because of that, okay, and we don't have Buddha to teach us, we are not in front of the Buddha, so we are using these books, these scriptures. At the same time, it is taught to us. My teachers taught me, and I share a little bit what I know with you guys. That is how one goes. So, first and foremost, okay, these, our wise teachers and teachers and teachers, 2,500 years along the line, they taught us, and they put a little system for us. For us, it's a little different. First of all, okay, there are seven factors that support you to have vijaya, investigation. And first one is, of course, you listen, you talk, you discuss, you read. But the key point is ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. To ask questions, you have to know what to ask. So that means you have to read, you have to listen, you have to discuss among yourself, and ask questions among yourself, if not, ask questions to your teachers that you have confidence in. Number one supportive factor is ask questions. That's number one. Number two supportive factor is when you are on the path to have this vijaya, okay, when you're practicing, you need cleanliness. Believe it or not, cleanliness. Both internal and external cleanliness. Internal cleanliness, okay, that means your mind must be as pure as possible in the mind side. Internal cleanliness, the body, you have a regular bowel movement, you have no constipation, you have no diarrhea, your digestion is good, the incoming food and outgoing disposal system balance, and you're functioning very well. That is the internal cleanliness. External cleanliness, the place you live, the place you meditate, the place you study. The place you meditate must be clean and tidy, structure. That's why I've asked several times the yogis here, please sit in lines and in rows. When you have that system there, when your eyes see that kind of a system neatly packed, your mind cleaned up too. And when you are just sitting every way and any way you like mushroom growing anywhere, you look at it and your mind is also disorganized as it is. In the earlier stage, you don't know that much. In a higher stage, it's very, very obvious and sensitive. Cleanliness, number two. Ask questions to have cleanliness. And then balance your mind. Balance your mind. You all know already. Okay. Right now I'm just going to shorten it up. 5 controlling mental faculties. Saddha, confidence. Viriya, effort. Sati, mindfulness. Concentration, samadhi. Panya, wisdom. Your mind has to be balanced. Between the faith and wisdom, they must be in a state of balance. And within the effort and concentration, they must be balanced. Only mindfulness, that's never enough. If any of those things are not in balance, you won't get that. So number 3, supporting factor. Number 4, that's very important. So important, you will hear almost everywhere in Dhamma talk. And we have gone through that Mangala Sutra, you remember? The first phrase, the first verse, Ativanasa balanan pandita ninsa devana. Avoid the fools and associate with the wise. That's the first thing the Buddha taught us in the blessing. And here, number 4 is avoid the fools, avoid unmindful people, avoid chaotic people. And number 5, associate with the mindful people, associate with the wise, associate with the like-minded who are practicing. Those 2 are very, very important because we are the environmental conditioned product. We become what the environment conditioned us. So we try to select our environment, live and associate an environment where there are mindful people and avoid where there are no mindful people. And listen to Dhamma talk as regularly or as much as possible. That keeps your mind supple. Otherwise, the mind becomes hardened. So, 4 and 5. Number 6. Number 6 is, it shows that you need to know certain things about Buddhism, the salient point. And I stress quite often whenever important things come. You must know anicca, dukkha, anatta, the 3 characteristics. You must know lobha, dosa, moha, kilesa, mental defilement. You must know the hindrances, what to avoid. With clarity, not just knowing the words. You must know 5 controlling mental faculties, how they do what they do. Okay, those things you must know and you must exercise accordingly whenever there is. And also, you must know and you must reflect. Okay, these are the sense objects. Okay, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, mental image. And these are the sensitivities. Eye sensitivity, ear sensitivity, nose sensitivity, taste, tongue sensitivity, body sensitivity. And whenever these come in touch, the sensitivity and the corresponding come in touch, there is the touch means what? Phassa, contact. As soon as that come into context, the knowing of that situation arises. That is the corresponding consciousness. Whenever things are happening, you try to look in that way, you try to reflect in that way, you try to think in that way. You are not meditating. I'm talking about in general now. You must reflect, you must think in terms of that. Oh, this is the object, this is the sensitivity, and when they are in contact with attention, there's the knowing arises. What are they? We call it the 3 elements. Receiving element, striking element, and igniting element. 3 elements. Always reflect when things are happening. Look in that way, view in that way, reflect in that way. When things are happening in your daily life. And you begin to see the process, situation, conditions, or what is happening to you. Move in a process way rather than the personal way. When you begin to keep your mind attention on it, you begin to see the play of the process, the play of the phenomenon. And the prominence and dominance of I starting to dissipate slowly and slowly. That must be exercised. That's a supporting factor. Look in terms of the aggregates, the 5 aggregates. I won't go into details. You know what 5 aggregates is. Look in terms of bases, 6 bases, 12 bases, and so on. You apply them. Now there's a lot of intellectual thinking, reflective works involved happening, and you apply these process and you plug it in and plug it in and plug it in. You see, you reflect, you think, you reflect, you think. By doing so, you relate to the world with less personal nature and more impersonal nature, because you begin to see the process and phenomenon. And that will help and that will support when you are practicing for Dhamma Vicaya. With that, we'll conclude what investigation of Dhamma or Dhamma Vicaya means. May all of you be able to practice Satipatthana Vipassana meditation precisely, correctly, and may you be able to reach Vicaya in the investigation of Dhamma as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Buddham pujemi, Dhammam pujemi, Sangham pujemi.